Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Green. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Green is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview Sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Green. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by Dan Novias of Mode Mobile. He is known as the creator of the EarnPhone and is revolutionizing the mobile industry with its Earn As You Go software, enabling millions of users to turn daily smartphone habits into passive income. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Seth. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. So let's go back in time a little bit. I believe you started your first company in high school.
That's right. Yeah, I was started out of working at a polo store and then started using my discount to sell it online. But then it scaled up to about a $2 million a year business. Left polo, after about 2 or 3 months. And that was like kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship.
Okay, so you were buying your polo clothes at a discount and reselling them at full price or a markup, and obviously we're able to generate some sales for that. And then how did that get to $2 million a year?
Well, I mean, at a high level,
I would imagine Polo wasn't letting you buy millions of dollars of inventory.
Definitely not. I think by the time I left Polo, within a few months, I had made about $30,000. And the way it was essentially, like how the story started essentially is like I was working there. And there was this huge tour bus of tourists from Japan, and they came in. They bought like $60,000 worth of clothes. There's just me and this one other guy there, and my reward for like helping that entire sale out was a $5 Arby's gift card. And I remember being like so disappointed. And then I was like, well, if they knew that I had 40% off, I could have split it with them, and I could have made like 12K. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's really intelligent. So then I started going around, found like an item that had a good markup, sold it on eBay within that next day. And, did basically that to get starting capital. It wasn't like the way to sustainably grow the business, but it was kind of like the way I bootstrapped it. And what I started noticing was like kind of price arbitrages in different markets. So, this was with the clothes. Where I found a really nice niche was like, I was from Brazil originally, and but I grew up in Indiana. So two very different places. And there's huge amounts of price difference between electronics in Brazil versus here. And so I'd export items like iPods and other expensive items overseas, and then you can make a nice markup. And so that's essentially how I scaled it to $2 million. I started doing that in the UK. I did that in Australia. I did that in all these different places. And, it was kind of like before the whole drop shipping craze started. It was kind of a variation of drop shipping, but also playing with like the arbitrage on the pound versus a dollar, the Australian dollar, and so on and so forth. And, it was a great business. One solo entrepreneur, but low margin, but, really worked out.
That is absolutely fascinating. I'm sure the longer version of that story should probably be in a book somewhere too. How did Mode Mobile come about?
Yeah, so Mode came about, after college. I ran that company all through college and did a bunch of other, different businesses. Unfortunately, my warehouse in the UK got robbed at the time. And when I was like, had just like graduated college, now a lot of my money was taken because that's a high churn, cash flow business. And then I was like, man, the physical goods space is not where I should spend my time. I'm going to get into software because it can't get robbed, and that's literally how I really started thinking much more about software. Started building apps, met my co-founder on Fiverr actually. And originally he was in high school at the time. And we built a bunch of different apps. First one he charged me $85 to do, and we I made like about 10K off of it in that first week of launching it. Then I was like, wow, this is a great opportunity. Kept building a bunch of different products, and had some small exits along the way, nothing massive. And then we had this idea of like bringing together multiple different services in one place. Initially it was like music and media. And unfortunately, like that never took off. But we had one cohort of user that was using it, and then we went to go interview them. And it turns out it was like this more budget conscious consumer that didn't want to pay for music subscriptions. And then we were like, oh, like this consumer has a lot of time, but they don't have money. And then we're like, well, what if we paid you to listen to music? Like, would you be interested in that? And they were like, there was an extreme product market fit for that. And then we just put up a sign up wall, kind of like if you remember like early version Robinhood, you can like sign up and then it had millions of signups. And we just did that with like, you know, literally like the next week. And within like a month, we had like 300,000 people that had signed up for, getting paid to play music and media, right? Effectively. And we launched that finally, built it, launched it, and it was really hard to make money because paying people to play music was like a very difficult business to make work. And so then we moved into gaming, then we moved into all these other activities you do on your phone. And before we knew it, really what the business had kind of become was this idea of like building an operating system, an Earn OS that we called it. And that was starting to scale. We started really seeing several $1 million in revenue. Basically in 2019 we did like 100K, and by 2022 we had done like 25 million in revenue. So we
Wow.
saw a 32,000 literally a 32,481% growth rate. That was exact percentage growth rate that we had. And towards 2021, in 2020, I started having this idea. And 2021, we actually executed on it, which is like, hey, we're going to launch a phone that pays you. And it's going to be an earn phone. And how will that differ from someone that's just downloading your app? And the thesis I had was kind of like very similar to when you go to a restaurant. If the waiter brings you like water, you might take a sip, you know what I mean? But if you order a bottle of Pellegrino or of Aqua Panna, you're committed to that bottle. You're probably going to drink most of it, right? And you only paid like you paid $4 for it, but you're going to drink it. And so I had this idea of like, well, even though these phones aren't that expensive, especially because, as I had this phone and, I have it here like in my hand, and it's like, it was the same price of me going to like Ruth's Chris and getting like a fillet, or I could have this phone that could, pay me about $100 a month, relatively easily. And I was like, this is just a really good value, And then I was like, and we had a lot of users at the time, so I was like, worst comes to worst, we'll literally just sell them to our users as a redemption item. And we made 5,000 phones. We figured out a manufacturer that would let us make that small of a batch, and we launched it. And then we saw like really great data from it. And then we got it into stores, Walmart, Best Buy, Target. And then now we're starting to really take that model and starting to license it to other carriers, other OEMs. And really the idea is to kind of turn into what Roku has been able to do in the smart TV space, which is like powering the earning, what they do for their OS on televisions, because all the money's made on your viewership. But you're spending, 40 hours a week on your smartphone, and so that's kind of like the idea of how we got here. Um, it's many pivots along the way for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could spend hours going through them, if not days. Man, that needs to be in a book if it isn't. So I'm sure there's a ton of lessons along the way. So tell everybody watching and listening what Mode Mobile does now and how they can participate. Because I would love it if my phone would pay me, right? That seems
Yeah,
like
I
an
mean,
irresistible offer.
yeah, I think the high level is essentially like we pay you for the things that you're going to do on your smartphone. People are going to play games, they're going to trade, they're going to shop, they're going to read the news, they're going to charge their phone. I mean, we basically try and reward you for every possible thing you can think of that you're going to do there. The general way how the business operates is, we work with advertisers. Advertisers pay us a certain amount. We share that revenue with you. I mean, that's really fundamentally what we're doing. So instead of that money going to big tech, we're sharing that revenue with the consumers. The ways that people can participate is that they can either download our app and convert their smartphone into an Earn phone. They can just download our app. It's called Earn app in the Play Store, or they can buy one of our devices. And then the other option is not everyone's interested in earning, 50 to $100 a month. We tend to focus more on budget conscious consumers and then kind of like the emerging markets of the world. But we have this like kind of growing base of like more affluent customers, many of them which are invested in the business. Like the way that we fundraised this company was through Reg A and, Reg CF, which is effectively crowdfunding. We're one of the largest crowdfunders in America. Have raised just under $60 million through that mechanism and have about 50,000 shareholders in the company. And that's a different demographic. We have a lot of boomers in there. We have a lot of older generation that they see like how their kids are using smartphones or maybe their grandkids, and they believe in the mission. And so now we're kind of coming out with some interesting ways of how to earn and save for more affluent customers. Doesn't necessarily have to do with just the phone. It can be like tax hacks, it could be investing opportunities, it could be things like that. Because everyone wants to earn and save, and that's really kind of what our core business is. Like we're in the business of helping people earn and save money, through our various different offerings. And so they can check out our site at invest.modemobile.com if they want to learn more about that in particular.
Awesome. Can you say that site again one more time slower?
Yeah, invest.modemobile.com.
Invest.modemobile.com. Awesome. You have, not every business you've had has been as successful. What are some of the lessons you've learned along the way?
I think the number one lesson that I've learned along the way, and even in this business, has been, to constantly be open to kind of like the market changing and pivots. And, and I think like, you know, the amount of times that this business has almost gone south and gone under is, definitely more than both of my hands could count. And I think that what we've always considered is like really trying to make moves really quickly when we see that, hey, the market has changed, right? And that could be a fundraising environments, that could be, a growth at all cost markets, that could be, how advertisers are buying and those patterns. And so I think it's really important for you to kind of like, you know, not procrastinate and kind of sit and like have analysis paralysis. Like sometimes you just need to make that decision. And honestly, it could save your company. In many cases, like the worst things that happen in our business are actually the most things that I'm most grateful for. And now, have really helped us get to this like absolutely different level. I wouldn't have gotten into crowdfunding had we not gone through a difficult time. And the end of 2022, which is our best year ever of revenue. And then also the back half of it was like one of the most turbulent times I've ever seen because the market completely changed. And so I think that that's kind of like probably the number one lesson I would give to anyone is just be ready to, pivot and be nimble, because the market's going to change and nothing lasts forever, especially in entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Excuse me. How do you
Bless
deal
you.
with that, like mentally and emotionally?
Um, I think that the best way that I have found to deal with it is like having a good routine. Like I do a 5-minute journal every morning, and that kind of there's a lot to be grateful for even during like bad times. I think, and I think it's easy to say, and I lean much deeper into it when I'm going through a difficult time for sure, because it's really easy to get like sucked into negativity, I guess, when you're working on your stuff, because you're constantly like as an entrepreneur, and there's like constant setbacks, and especially when you're in those dark moments, and then you're kind of questioning time, questioning like the amount that you spend, questioning like the narrative that you built. I think like but that's also like if you build in time to focus on all the great things that are happening, and then look at it as like a lesson to kind of build and grow from. And know that it's going to suck at that moment in time. But like, there's never been a time that I look back and I'm like, oh, like, I'm not grateful for that moment. Like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go deal with that shit again. Like, it was bad. You know what I mean? But now that I look at it, I'm like, I'm glad that I was able to kind of like go above that. And it's kind of like training for a marathon. I'm in the process of doing that right now. It's like, it is painful to go through like this training period. And I'm glad I'm going to run this race. But when you're in it, you're like, this isn't pleasant, you know what I mean? But I'm really proud that I was able to do that. So I think it's the same mechanism, and you just have to build those like 5 or 10 minutes a day to see the positivity of what you're able to do and the things that are going well. But usually you're your own worst critic as an entrepreneur. I feel like many entrepreneurs have a lot of negative self-talk to kind of keep them motivated. And I'm very guilty of that. So, that's at least what's worked for me, is to build those moments in.
That makes a lot of sense. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
I think like what I'm most there's two things I'm most excited about now. I mean, one is like the broader mission. I've always wanted to build a business that is mission like aligned but sustainable. I think like fundamentally like we're in the business of really helping a lot of people that are generally people don't focus on. And we create something that even when they're like, a lot of these people are down on their luck, whether it be financial circumstances, whatever. And it's not like meant to supplement their income in the sense that it's going to be all that they need to do to earn. But it's a small win, and small wins lead to larger wins, and larger wins lead to, big milestones. And I think that, we are able to impact millions of people every year in that positive way while building a business that can provide returns for our shareholders. The second thing I'm really excited about right now that's like, really we're seeing a lot of great momentum with is we started like buying a lot of companies and apps and assets to integrate into our ecosystem. I think if I could go back to, 10 years ago or even, younger when I was like, getting out of college, I probably would go into the acquisition space a bit more because I think it's much easier to acquire a business and scale it that's already kind of has product market fit than starting from 0 to 1. And that model has really been interesting for us because we had this thesis that was like, hey, we're working with all these advertisers. Why don't we buy some of these apps that are really good cash flowing products and expose it to our user base and vice versa, take our know-how and grow these companies. And that's been really, really profitable, really, really amazing. And so we're excited just to, keep doing that and scaling this to, a monster opportunity for all of our backers and stakeholders.
That is absolutely incredible. Are you allowed to talk about the number of users you've had and the amount of money you've paid out to your users?
Yeah, I mean, just on the Mode Earn app ecosystem, we've had well over 50 million people that have, downloaded and used that product. If you include like the products that we've recently acquired, it's several hundred million people that have like, touched our ecosystems. Every day, several million people are using our products. And we've helped, I don't have the exact number today, but, as we typically pull it every like 6 months or so. We've been able to facilitate well over $350 million in earnings and savings back to consumers. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, where we're at in terms of, kind of the impact, I would say, that we're able to generate for people.
That is absolutely incredible. We know your time's incredibly valuable. We appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our folks watching and listening, where again are the places to go to get the app, to get the phone, to do the crowdfunding, all of the things?
Yeah, I mean, so the phone's called EarnPhone. They could, go to our website or, go to Best Buy or something like that. If they online, if they want to, check that out, or the app is called Earn App. And you could, find the Google Play Store, likely be the first thing that pops up. And then, on the crowdfunding side, they could check out our website and learn more about our offerings and upcoming offerings at invest.modemobile.com.
All right. Thank you so much again for joining us, Dan. Thanks everybody for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Thanks for having me, Seth. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.